Another conference that I don't know what it's going to look like going forward. I don't feel like Florida State and Clemson are staying there long term, but even so, man, 2023, no more divisions. No more divisions. They said the Big 12 is doing what? The Pac-12 did it how? Yeah, we like that. We're going to roll with that. So there's a lot of dangerous teams, I think, but they also have a lot of big question marks across the board. Like North Carolina, I love me some Drizzy Drake May. If you've watched this show for any length of time, you know we call him No Drama Drizzy. Because whenever he steps on the field, you know what you're getting with him. You know he's going to give you buckets. You know he's going to be a problem for defenses. He's going to throw the ball all over the yard. He's going to hold up his end of the bargain. But my question for North Carolina, like, who's catching the football for them? At the time of us being live, Tez Walker has been denied eligibility for this coming season. So I hope that changes. I don't think that's really the conversation we want to have right now. But I don't agree with that. He was one of their top guys they were going to go to this year. The defense leaves a lot to be desired. Defense has got to pick it up. I think they could be better, but that's a huge question mark. I can't pick them to win the ACC. Miami, I think they're going to be much better than last year. Like last year, no mistaking about it. Like that was not the Miami football team that Mario Cristobal is going to have in Coral Gables long term. However, I do think they're going to be much better. Did a lot through the portal. I just really have a question of if they're already in contender mode. Like I think last year was a bit more of a reset than I would have liked to see out of them. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if they ended up competing for the ACC title and they're in that mix somewhere in November. But I'm worried about the transition period for them going from 5-7 to conference title contender. That's a little bit of a stretch for me right now, at least. And they'll play the games and maybe we change our answer week 2. Duke is another team that's dangerous. I mean, Riley Leonard, the NFL draft community loves this dude. Like they think he is the best NFL draft prospect, not named Drake May or Caleb Williams. Now, I'm not an NFL draft guy. I have friends that do that and that get paid well to do that. But for me, like I just know he's a baller when it comes to the college football level. The defense is replacing a lot. I think they'll be really solid. Again, they're one of those teams that kind of like Kansas State in the Big 12. I think they give you issues when it comes to your conference title chances if you got to play them in November or October. Like, hey, Clemson plays them the first Monday game of the season. They play them week 1. They got to go to Durham, North Carolina and play Duke. I don't love that for Clemson, but still, I think Duke has a little bit too much of a question mark outside of Riley Leonard to pick them to win the ACC. Now, however, I do think Florida State is in that game. I think Florida State gets to the conference title game, and like I said multiple times throughout this live show, like we just know the most about Florida State right now. We know the most about them. 94% production back on defense. That allowed 22 points a game. 80% of the production back on offense. That scored 35 a game. But if you're in Tallahassee, Florida, what you're excited about is the transfers you went and got. Jaheim Bell. You feel really good about what he's going to be at tight end. Transfer from South Carolina. Heck, he played running back at times last year for South Carolina. Like that's how much they wanted to get him the football. They were dinged up at running back and said, let's just hand it to Jaheim Bell. And it actually worked pretty well if you watched the end of their season last year at South Carolina. But Keon Coleman, man, they are loving what he's bringing to the table right now in fall camp. He was wide receiver 1 at Michigan State. Could have been wide receiver 1 at Michigan State this coming season. He's a problem now. You turn on his tape, you turn on his highlights rather. He's just, I mean, usually you hear the term 50-50 ball when it's in the air. It's not a 50-50 ball. The ball's in the air, it's like 90-10. Keon Coleman's coming down with that. And that sounds kind of hyperbolic. If it is, it's not a hyperbole by much. Hyperbole. It's not much of a stretch to say that's kind of the way it works with Keon Coleman. Dude's a dog. Jordan Travis, another year in the saddle. You feel really good about where you are with Florida State. They won 10 ball games last year. They're getting to the ACC title game. There's no guessing with them. You know what you can get with them. Now, what do we get when we get to the ACC title game? We'll see, but I'm not worried about what they have under the hood at Florida State with Mike Norvell. He's done a phenomenal job there. Now, who do they see in that ACC title game? They get a rematch from week 4 with the Clemson Tigers. And on paper, man, I love Clemson because they have all of the tools to be an elite college football team. Like they were an elite college football team last year. They won the ACC. They bring back 75% of that defense that won the ACC last year. I said it before in this live show as well. Barrett Carter, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., probably one of, if not the best linebacker combos in the entire country. Xavier Thomas, He's back for another year. He was one of the best recruits in the country coming out. Like, he's a dude that's going to wreak havoc this coming season. I promise you, he's going to bring a lot for them off the edge. This defensive line, I think, will kind of look like the defensive lines we've come to expect from Clemson over the past couple of years when they were winning national titles and they had Christian Wilkins. Peter Woods, man, I should have mentioned this in our fall camp intel segment with him. They feel like he's going to be a problem, and not just like down the road. Like, they feel like he's a great football player today. Some people at Clemson were saying usually you get these freshmen that show up on campus, and year one for them is all about making good on their talent and becoming a great college football player. Like, in practice right now, he already is a great college football player, and I believe he's only going to get better. Again, that's a kid that was a 5-star coming out of high school and was a big pickup for Clemson to get. So the question then goes to the offense. And Garrett Riley, man, I think he's bringing some new juice. Last year, Clemson won the ACC. They only threw for over 300 yards one time in the regular season, and that was that shootout game against Wake Forest. So I'm not dunking on DJ Uiagalelei. I think DJ Uiagalelei actually is going to prove this coming season that the system last year at Clemson ain't it. But you feel really excited about bringing in Cade Klubnik. And it may take some time. I'm not saying give him the Heisman Trophy game one because we still don't know what he's going to be. But I think as time goes on and he grows more in his role as the starting quarterback at Clemson and kind of makes the most of what this system is, I think that offense is going to be really, really dynamic. Because the guys they have getting healthy in that wide receiver room, Adam Randall especially is a name we're going to talk a lot about this coming fall, I promise you. Guy who was hurt last year, or I don't know, hurt. He was coming off of an injury last year, and then I think he's going to be a guy that really helps you this coming fall. Antonio Williams, you know what it is with him. Going to be a sophomore. He was the only guy that stretched the field. They're going to be much more dynamic in the pass game side of things. Like, they averaged 6.8 yards a pass last year. TCU was top 20 in that stat. Garrett Riley is going to scheme more guys open. You're not just hoping that somebody separates one-on-one. It's play action. It's we got the defense moving with motions. It's tempo. And then we take our shots where we can get them. So Clemson offensively will look very different and score a lot more points. So for the winner of Clemson-Florida State round 2, I will just say this right now. I think whoever wins the first game of the season, it will be very, very difficult to go 2-0. Like, any way you slice it, I think you have a series at 1-1 when it's all said and done for Clemson, Florida State. And I think for Clemson, man, the experience side of things. Like, this team at Clemson, they have a lot of guys that came back as 5th or 6th year guys because they feel internally like, man, we got to get Clemson back to college football playoff Clemson, back to national title kind of Clemson. Like, the ACC is the first block in that. And so what I'm saying is the experience they have internally, I think, pays dividends. Florida State has a lot of experience as well, but I think Clemson has experience winning in these kind of football games. I think at that point in the year, Cade Klubnik is not even considered a first-year starter anymore. So I think Clemson actually probably drops the first game of the season. But I think first game they play against Florida State this season. But I think they end up winning the ACC championship. Important note, though, for this one. Do not be surprised if we end up in this game, and this is not a prediction, I'm just saying we should all be on watch for this. Do not be surprised if we find Florida State undefeated in that game and we find Clemson with their only loss to Florida State in the regular season in the ACC title. It would not be the wildest thing ever if you had Clemson and Florida State find themselves in the college football playoff with one loss. I don't know what would happen to the college football universe. I don't know what that would mean for realignment. But I'm just saying that is not outside of the realm of possibility by any stretch. But for me, I'm picking Clemson to win the ACC. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.